Chapter 1. The bad news was the blood in her hair. The good news was that it wasn't hers. The day before, the bull moose had walked into the homestead clearing like he owned it. The same day hunting season opened, on the first year in 6 Kate had drawn a permit. On the first year in 10, the feds had declared a hunting season in her game management unit. On a potty break from digging potatoes, she was buttoning her jeans in front of the outhouse when the sound of a snapped branch drew her attention. She looked up to find him head and shoulders into a stand of alders whose dark green leaves had just started to turn. For a moment she stood where she was, transfixed, mouth and fly open, unable to believe her luck. One limb stripped of bark, the moose nosed over to a second, ignoring her presence with what could have been regal indifference, but given the time of year was probably absolute disdain for any creature not a female of his own species. "He'll run when I move," she thought. "But I have to move. The rifle's in the cabin. But if I move, he'll head out, and then I'll have to bushwhack after him and pack him home in pieces. But he can't outrun a bullet." His rack was peeling velvet in long, bloody strips, and as he chewed, he rubbed the surface of his antlers against the trunk of a neighboring birch. He looked irritated. Before long, he would be looking frenzied, and not long after that, manic, especially when he caught a whiff of the moose cow that had been summering along the headwaters of the creek that ran in back of Kate's cabin. It was late in the year for either of them to be in rut, but then Kate had never known Moose to keep a strict timetable in matters of the heart. "If I don't move soon," she thought, "Mutt will get back from breakfast, and then he will run, and this argument you're having with yourself will be academic." The bull was a fine, healthy specimen, 3, maybe 4 years old by the spread of his rack, his coat thick and shiny, his flanks full and firm-fleshed. She figured 400 pounds minimum, dressed out. Her mouth watered. She took a cautious single step. The ground was hard from the October frost, and her footstep made no sound. Encouraged, she took another, then another. The .30-06 was racked below the 12-gauge over the door. She checked to see if there was a round in the chamber. There always was, but she checked anyway. Reassured, she raised the rifle, pulled the stock into her shoulder, and sighted down the barrel, her feet planted wide in the open doorway, the left a little in advance of the right, knees slightly bent. She blew out a breath and held it. Blood thudded steadily against her eardrums. The tiny bead at the end of the barrel came to rest on the back of the bull's head, directly between his ears. Lot of bone between her bullet and his brain. Moose have notoriously hard heads. She thought about that for a moment. Well, what was luck for if it was never to be chanced? "Hey," she said. He took no notice, calmly stripping the bark from another tree limb. "You must lower the average moose IQ by 10 points, she said in a louder voice. "I'm doing your entire species a favor by taking you out of the gene pool." He turned his head at that, a strip of bark hanging from one side of his mouth. She exhaled again, and the bead at the end of the rifle barrel centered directly on one big brown eye. Gently, firmly, she squeezed the trigger. The butt kicked solidly into her shoulder, and the report of the single shot rang in her ear. He stopped chewing and appeared to think the matter over. Kate waited. He started to lean. He leaned over to his left, and he kept on leaning, picked up speed, leaned some more, and crashed into the alder, bringing most of it down with him. The carcass settled with a sort of slow dignity, branches popping, twigs snapping, leaves crackling. As silence returned to the clearing, Kate, not quite ready yet to believe her eyes, walked to the moose and knelt to put a hand on his neck. His hair was rough against her skin, his flesh warm and firm in the palm of her hand, his mighty heart still. She closed her eyes, letting his warmth and strength flow out of him and into her. A raven croaked nearby, mischievous.